Hey everyone, good morning from Anchorage, Alaska. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Susanna Caldwell. I'm the Deputy Director of the Tech Deployment Track, and I am so excited to talk to you about the tech opportunities and the Tech Deployment Track and how our program can help you find project opportunities in Alaska fast. Now, before we begin, I'd like to start how we begin every group meeting with a land acknowledgement. Today, I'm calling into this Zoom from Anchorage, Alaska, which is located on the traditional lands of the Dena'ina Indigenous people. On behalf of everyone at Launch Alaska, we also acknowledge all Indigenous people of Alaska, and we thank them for past and present stewardship of the waters, plants, and animals of this place. Before I dive into how you can find project opportunities and tell you a little bit more about the tech deployment track, I want to make sure you understand what Launch Alaska is and what we do. So, founded in 2016, Launch Alaska is a nonprofit on a mission to catalyze rapid innovation that strengthens energy, transportation, and industrial systems. We envision prosperous and resilient communities rich in economic opportunities and sustainable systems. Now, we do this multiple ways. One is with our deployment team, who work with project developers all across the state to help them unlock projects all over Alaska. And of course, through the Tech Deployment Track, which is bringing game-changing climate technologies to Alaska and connecting those companies, you, directly with project partners. So how do we do this? Well, the main way is with the incredible team that we have here. We have 10 members on our team currently, and collectively, our team brings decades of experience in climate tech, sales, and business development. We also bring our strong network of connections to project developers, which is by far the greatest asset we can give you as part of the tech deployment track. Alaska is like one big small town where everyone knows everyone, but I think our team is particularly well connected when it comes to project development. And of course, just a little bit about me so you can get to know me. I grew up in Wasilla, Alaska, but I've lived in Anchorage for the last 13 years. I started my career as a journalist before I transitioned to sustainability work in 2017. I spent years working in solid waste, and in that time, I developed numerous programs for the city of Anchorage, including the first curbside food scrap and organics collection program. I was also part of the team that advocated for and designed a new waste transfer station in Anchorage. It was a $112 million project that was the largest civic project in Anchorage in over a decade at that time. So I really bring a background of project development and management, communications and government relations to the Launch Alaska team. And of course, I am the master of ceremonies for all things tech deployment track. So now I want to talk to you about why you should consider Alaska as a deployment destination. Well, mostly it's because my home state is an incredible place to unleash rapid innovation. Not only are there incredible opportunities to solve some of the most pressing problems facing Alaska and the world, energy accessibility and affordability, just to name a few, but there are also some amazing resources here. For example, we have incredible tidal, geothermal, and solar resources. And Alaska is a leader when it comes to microgrids with over 200 distinct systems in the state. We're an aviation destination with 16 times the national rate of aircrafts in the state per capita and one of the busiest cargo airports in the world. We also have robust oil and gas, fishing, and seafood processing industries, as well as access to abundant natural resources like timber and critical minerals. Alaska really is an incredible place with some incredible opportunities. And what I think is the most exciting is that there are project partners that join the tech deployment track every year that are so excited about finding solutions that drive down energy costs and provide other benefits to Alaska communities. Now, we focus on climate tech because we know that there is tremendous need for this tech in Alaska. Our innovation space is still burgeoning, and while we have some really exciting homegrown companies, we know that there are so many others out there who are interested in working in Alaska and developing technologies that will thrive in northern climates and harsh conditions, which is why we're here to help make that happen. So now I want to talk about how you can get your tech into Alaska through the tech deployment track. So our award-winning 8-month accelerator program is a staged program designed to help you find leads and make connections to potential project partners fast. You can see that we have different stages of the program here in this graphic. Now we start off with session one, which is scheduled for Tuesday, September 16th, and this serves as the program kickoff. This is where you're required to come to Alaska in person to meet with our group of curated advisors to pitch and find potential project opportunities. Now, if it looks like you have project opportunities and gain advisors' endorsement as mentors, then we continue working with you to strategize the best projects for you to consider and then help you make warm introductions to those organizations. Then we continue to work with you to make those connections and identify any roadblocks that might be holding up your development. Now, following session one, all elements of the program move online, though of course we strongly encourage you to come back to Alaska if you can. Now, after that first pitch session at session one, you're going to walk away with a few things: dozens of leads, multiple mentor connections, and tons of additional networking from all the meeting you've done in person. We then set up a meeting with those mentors to help you work through all of those leads and come up with a strategy on which leads seem the most promising. Then you'll spend the next month and a half making connections with those leads with help from your mentors and the Launch Alaska team through a series of customer discovery meetings. Now, this is one of the busiest times of the program, that September through October timeframe. We're then going to ask you to report out to us on the findings of those meetings during session two, which will happen in early November. Now, hopefully by that point, you'll be able to report out on at least one or two projects that are coming together. Now, after that, then we work with you directly to come up with a strategy and figure out a game plan on how you're actually going to deploy in Alaska, which considers all the procurement, logistics, and sales strategy that you're going to need to make a project happen. Now, we measure success at the end of the program if it looks like you're going to be able to deploy your product or service within 12 to 18 months following the end of the program. Now, this is a pretty flexible timeline, to be honest. We know that software companies are going to have a much faster timeline than, say, tidal power or micronuclear reactors. But we just want to make sure that you have some sort of tangible development happening in Alaska. Now, companies that we deem successful are invited to join Launch Alaska's portfolio, where they continue to receive project support from the Launch Alaska team and connections to new project opportunities as they become available. Now, the tech deployment program is free to participate. However, we do not cover any travel costs associated with coming to Alaska for session one. We also don't provide any investment or take any equity in your company at the end of the program. We really look at our network as your investment. However, we do provide access to an investor network for any of our companies that are raising. So like I said, it all kicks off with session one, which is a really exciting day of in-person pitching and networking in Anchorage. And now I want to play just a quick 3-minute video that shows you what that actually looks like and what our partners and participants say about the experience.
Deploying $1 billion of projects in Alaska by 2030.
We want to see projects happen. We want to see decarbonization happen in the state, and we're doing it through these super exciting startups. I'm Susanna Caldwell. I'm the Tech Deployment Track Lead here at Launch Alaska. I'm here today at the BP Energy Center in Anchorage, Alaska, and we're gearing up for the kickoff of the Tech Deployment Track. Hi. We're here today to find project opportunities for climate tech startups. We have 19 companies that are here today from energy, transportation, and industry. Each company is going to pitch for 7 minutes to a group of advisors. The advisors will ask questions, and then they'll come up with project ideas for them. We work with the companies to help develop those projects. So we take those leads, we start making introductions, and we just continue to identify whether or not they have a good market fit here in Alaska.
Today, climate is a big challenge all over the world. Aviation has its contribution to climate, so I'm hoping a program like Launch Alaska will encourage entrepreneurs to solve some of these problems that are facing all of humanity. And indeed, I see every year that I come back here that some amazing ideas and smart people getting together, and so we were very proud to work with this organization to get those ideas off the ground. This is a fantastic program, and we've already seen great value. It's really exciting for me to see companies that are growing out of this program that will become part of the future of how we travel.
Why Alaska? Alaska is a world-class proving ground for climate technologies here in the state. We say if you can deploy here in Alaska, you can deploy anywhere.
Alaska is of a lot of interest to us because of the energy landscape it has, which fits very well with the features our technology can provide. Especially Launch Alaska is very curated, and it's an iterative process where we work with Launch Alaska staff, we work with advisors to figure out the best deployment opportunity for our technology in Alaska. We can make sure that everybody has access to clean and cheap energy, and that's what our mission is. That a world is a place where everybody has access to clean, cheap energy.
I think the real value of programs like this technical deployment track are getting some fresh perspective in Alaska. I am super excited about all of the new ideas and innovative ways of thinking about how to solve Alaska's unique energy challenges. And particularly in rural Alaska, communities really face a host of challenges that combined make it stand out in the world. Getting new ideas to the table is really the most valuable thing.
We're really happy that here at Launch Alaska, we're able to find the most innovative and exciting climate tech companies that want to come here, and then to be able to connect with these folks who are so excited to have them. And so there are just huge opportunities. We encourage anyone who's working in climate tech to look at our program and to come up here and to consider joining the tech deployment track.
Deploying.
So I hope that was helpful in giving you an overview of what the tech deployment track actually looks like and what folks are saying about it and the benefits and all of that. I do want to talk now about the partners that make all of this work happen, and of course your potential work as well. So Launch Alaska does receive major funding support from the U.S. Department of the Navy Office of Naval Research and the U.S. Department of Energy Office of Technology Transitions. We're also supported by dozens of Alaska organizations, large and small, from Alaska Native corporations and resource development companies to local utilities, research institutions, community groups, and more. These are the folks we connect you with at Session 1. They serve as your advisors and potential mentors. Now, you might see a lot of power players here, and that's intentional. We want the best folks who can help move your project forward as fast as possible to be in the room at Session 1. We also curate this group each year to the companies that attend, so we have the right people in the room to make your work happen. So if there's an organization that you know of that you think would be a good fit for your technology and you don't see them here, that's okay. Odds are we can connect you with them either at Session 1 or following Session 1. Now, companies that graduate the tech deployment track join the Launch Alaska portfolio, where we continue to provide ongoing project development support. Now, right now, we have 41 active companies with dozens of projects happening in the state, including 16 projects that were awarded in 2024 alone. So the 41 companies currently in our portfolio have deployed 90 projects in Alaska since the inception of the program, with an average lead time of about 2.5 years from deployment from the start of the tech deployment track. So we're talking about real business opportunities in the state of Alaska, which is why I hope you consider joining our program. Now, I want to talk a little bit about how the program has taken some amazing tech and found incredible opportunities in the state by sharing a few success stories of companies that have gone through our program. So first, I want to talk about Cache Energy. They went through the cohort in 2023, and they made huge strides within the 8 months of the program. Now, Cache deployed its long-duration energy storage system in Anchorage in August after going through the tech deployment track. Cache charges limestone pellets in their system, and then they have the ability to discharge them in a way that can connect into any heat source. Now, Cache came to Alaska through the tech deployment track to find Alaska project opportunities. Through connections in the program and through connections with Halliburton Labs, they installed a demonstration unit in Anchorage this last summer. Now, that allowed them to set up tours for potential off-takers with the goal of providing 10 units to Alaska customers in 2025. Launch Alaska has continued to support them in making connections by assisting with tours and outreach related to the demonstration, which will lead to direct revenue and project opportunities for Cache. So you can see we can support with additional connections, help with tours and outreach, additional demonstrations, policy advice, meeting with investors, you name it. We are essentially your Swiss Army knife of deployment. And if there's something we can't cover, just ask and we can dig into our deep bench to see if we can make it happen. This next project I want to talk about is a great example of how we can support demonstration projects in preparation for full-scale deployment. So Ampere is a transportation company working to develop an all-electric aircraft drivetrain. They participated in our 2021 Tech Deployment Track cohort and joined the Launch Alaska portfolio in 2022. In August of 2023, Ampere achieved a major milestone, the first flight of their hybrid electric aircraft from Southern California through Canada all the way to Fairbanks, Alaska. It was the farthest north a hybrid electric aircraft had ever flown, completed in collaboration with the Advanced Research Projects Agency Energy, which is better known as ARPA-E. Now, Launch Alaska was proud to work alongside ARPA-E and Ampere to support this historic flight by helping to facilitate the plane's history-making reception in Fairbanks. Now, this successful partnership illustrates one of the many paths companies can take to completing projects in Alaska. Tech Deployment Track is the springboard. By supporting demonstrations like Ampere's, we're able to pave the way towards more sustainable aviation in Alaska and help Ampere develop even more traction in the state. And the last project I want to talk about is Tech Deployment Track graduate Biomass Controls. Now, they went through our cohort in 2020. Well, they had identified a potential project for their biogenic refinery in Kivalina, which is a small community of 370 people in Northwest Alaska. The project had stalled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But by going through the Launch Alaska program, they were able to work with us and our close connections to get Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski to get congressionally directed spending toward the Kivalina project. Now, the biogenic refinery converts human waste into energy and other beneficial byproducts, including biochar, which is a valuable soil amendment that protects against erosion. This is especially important in Kivalina, which is located on a barrier island on Alaska's northwest coast and has seen a significant erosion as a result of climate change. This project was made possible through the continued collaboration with the Kivalina Tribal Council, Tech Alaska, the City of Kivalina, and Nana Village Economic Development. The Kivalina Biogenic Refinery is not only offering an innovative solution to environmental challenges, but also paving the way for a sustainable future for the residents of Kivalina and beyond. It could not have happened without the connections Launch Alaska provided. So hopefully now you have a general sense of the program and whether you should apply and whether or not it's going to be a good fit or not. And so with that, I do hope you apply. And I do want to give you a few application tips to help you figure out how to best frame your application to best fit our program. So first up, focus on Alaska. What is your Alaska value proposition? Please be specific and do some research. We are, at the end of the day, going to help you when you come to session one figure out where those best fits are. The companies that are most successful here have a good handle on what they want to do coming into the program. Keep it simple. Please give us a clear description of how your product works without acronyms or jargon. Potential customers we connect you with may or may not be experts in your field. So explain it to us as most basic as you can. Highlight your company's impact on climate change. So how is your technology innovative in your sector, and what are the benefits it can provide to Alaska market and the world? And be specific when it comes to your engagement to date with partners and customers. Tell us what contracts you've signed, what products you've delivered, or any sort of concrete commitments that you've already secured. Please don't make claims that you can't back up. This is really important for us to understand because it really helps us figure out who we should talk to and who we should bring into the program to help connect your tech with potential project opportunities. And focus on your market traction and scalability. Why are you coming to Alaska? How are you planning to bring your tech up here? This is all information that will help us consider your application. And this one's pretty obvious, but words matter. Your application should look professional with no spelling or grammar mistakes. If we see stuff like that, it's going to be pretty tough for us to consider bringing you up here. And ultimately, we are looking for the extraordinary. Highlight what you and your team have done outside of your company that you're proud of. How is your tech unique? Please differentiate yourself. And so now that I've given you an overview on everything, I just want to reiterate some of the key dates that I've talked about earlier to keep in mind if you're applying for the program. So first up, May 1st, this is just around the corner. Applications are going to close at 8 a.m. Alaska time, so please get them in on time. Following the application deadline, Launch Alaska reviews each application both internally from staff and then with an application review by a group that we call the External Review Committee, which is just an outside group that looks at the applications just to make sure that it's a legitimate tech, to see if there's some sort of fit in Alaska and give Launch Alaska's team a little bit more insight into whether or not this tech is a good thing to have in Alaska and to invite into the program. We then make decisions based on the recommendations from both groups. So then in early July, cohort invitations will be sent out asking whether or not you want to come up to Alaska to participate in the program. And then our first event of the program is August 26th, which is our first cohort orientation, which will be held online via Zoom. And then we gear up for September 15th and 16th, which is the program kickoff in Anchorage, which starts with the Doing Business in Alaska workshop that is mandatory to attend, where we just kind of go over some basics about how to work in Alaska and help prepare you for the next few months. And then we have the official kickoff for session 1 on September 16th. Now, again, both of these events are held in person, and at least one member of your executive team is expected to attend. So you can also follow our newsletter, which is the best way to stay up to date with us. We not only provide updates on our work and the tech deployment track, but we also provide resources and other information about working in Alaska, which we hope you find beneficial. And with that, thank you so much for your time. I'm happy to stay on and take any questions that you might have. I'm really happy to be joined by Kirsten Swan, who's our Deputy Director of Marketing, to help me with questions. So Kirsten, with that, please let me know if there are any questions.
Hi, Susanna. We do have a few questions rolling in. Let's kick things off with this one. Could you walk us through what the in-person kickoff in Anchorage looks like? What kind of prep should we do before showing up in September?
Yeah, that is a really great question. So the in-person kickoff, it's an all-day event. It goes from about 9 to 5. The way it works is we have a networking breakfast in the morning where you get a chance to start meeting with some of the advisors that you're going to be pitching to. And then we dive right into those 7-minute pitch presentations that everyone gets to have. And so what will happen is you will have an assigned time for your pitch, and you'll have 7 minutes to give that pitch. And then following that pitch, you'll have about 30 to 40 minutes to answer questions from all the advisors in the room. And so usually most folks end up taking most of that time. In between, while you're waiting for your pitch to start, you can hang around and continue to meet with advisors. You can sit in on other presentations from other companies and just continue to network all day long. Now, in terms of prepping for session 1, we do ask that you, there's a couple little pieces of homework. One is that you send your pitch in ahead of time, excuse me, for us to review, and it's just the pitch deck. So we are reviewing that pitch deck and just making sure that it has all the basic information that we know our advisors are interested in seeing, which will send out some information to you ahead of time so you can adjust your pitch accordingly. You know, I know a lot of folks are really familiar with giving investor pitches, but these pitches are really geared more towards getting customers. So there's some things that we just want to make sure that we see in those pitches. That will make sure that you have. We also ask you to prepare an Alaska engagement strategy. And so this is to help you find information that you can add into your pitch deck, but also to just have a better understanding of Alaska in general and give us an idea of, excuse me, how your tech works, and what are some of the technical limitations, some of the costs, like that sort of thing, where you'd want to deploy, where you can't deploy, for example, if there's, you can't operate in certain cold climates or you have certain variabilities there. We just want to make sure you're identifying that. And so we have you come up with this strategy. And again, it's just kind of a high level overview, knowing that you're going to learn more of this stuff as you come through our program. But again, we just want you to have some basic understanding of the state and where you want to deploy, which is really helpful for us and all the advisors moving forward in the program. So that's basically how we have you prepare. We also encourage you to, set up meetings outside of session one. If you're coming all the way to Alaska and there's project partners you want to work with, we definitely encourage you to reach out to them and set up meetings for that ahead of time. I do want to note, Launch Alaska does not make any introductions to any potential project partners ahead of session one. Following session one, we're happy to connect you with folks. But we do have this really broad network, but we do try to make sure that we're not inundating them with too many requests. And so we don't make any introductions ahead of time, but we will after session one. So yeah, if you're coming up here and you need help connecting with someone, you're welcome to do that. You're welcome to tell them that you're part of the tech deployment track, but Launch Alaska will not make that warm introduction for you.
Great. Thank you, Susanna. Our next question, are there any funding opportunities that come with the program, or is it strictly focused on deployment and partnerships?
Right now, it is strictly focused on deployment and partnerships. And again, the way we do that is we connect you with these potential partners, and we hope that you can find an opportunity with those folks and you can earn revenue through that project. We will help you find additional funding opportunities if needed, whether that's through grants or other opportunities. We don't offer any direct investment at the end of the program right now. I hope that's something we can develop in the future, but at this point, we don't offer that. Like I said earlier, though, we do have access to an investor network. So if your company is raising, we can connect you with those folks. But yeah, at this point, we don't do any direct investment, but we also don't take any equity either. So really, we're just here to help you deploy that project here in Alaska.
Great, thank you, Susanna. Our next question is, we're working on a hybrid clean energy logistics platform. It spans both the energy and transportation verticals. Would we apply under one or both?
I'd have to really look at the technology to know that for sure. It sounds like it's more of an energy company, just based on this very limited information. That said, it's not really that big of a deal. We do sometimes, recategorize companies. Maybe you say you apply as an energy company, and then we get in there and we see your tech overview, and we're like, oh no, this is a transportation company. It's really not that big of a deal. We do have some folks on our team. I mentioned the deployment team. We have an energy and industry lead and a transportation lead. And so once you get into later stages of the program, you get assigned to work with one of those folks. And so that's when it kind of comes into play. But we have a bunch of advisors who are generalists and stuff who cross over between energy and transportation. So how we categorize you, it's not that big of a deal. There is like flexibility there. So as long as you have a tech that really fits into Alaska, we can figure out some of those sort of technical details or whatever around which category you fall into. I would say, just pick which one you think feels best. And if we need to recategorize it later, it's not a big deal. So I know that sometimes with a lot of companies, it's not like a very clean, like we're clearly energy, we're clearly transportation, there's like crossover, but we'll make sure to get you in the right spot and get you connected with the right folks, no matter what.
Thanks, Susanna. Another question coming in. How intensive is the time commitment between September and April? Is it structured more like a full-time accelerator or a part-time collaboration?
Yeah, this is a great question. So I would say that September and October are going to be the busiest months of the program, but it's really how much time you are willing to put into it. And so I would say it's probably more of a part-time collaboration sort of thing. We have our in-person days in September, so there's prepping for that. And then following that September meeting, you'll get your leads, and you have a couple meetings. You have an orientation, and you have what we call a strategy session where you meet with your mentors to go over those leads. It's a 90-minute meeting. And so there's a couple actual, defined chunks of time where you're going to need to be present. But for the most part, it's a lot of like do it on your own, right? And so, after you have that strategy session, you have a list of leads and you've prioritized who you think are the most promising leads, right, to reach out to first. And so then you're going to set up customer discovery meetings. And so then those meetings, they can be as long as you need them to be. You can take as many as you need. It really is dependent on how much work you're willing to put in terms of setting up those meetings and following through with them. So it is a busier time. I mean, I would say it's between, 3 to 10 hours a week. Potentially, again, it really depends on how much time you're going to need in that front part of the program. But that's the busiest one because we're really trying to figure out quickly whether or not you have a market fit in Alaska by setting up those meetings and see if there's any sort of general interest for your tech in Alaska. And so after that first session, and where you've gone and you've had those customer discovery meetings, by the end of that, in early November, you have identified at least 1 or 2 projects that you think are a good fit to really focus all of your energy on. And so then the time that you put into that is a lot less moving forward. Again, there are some structured meetings, but it's about 1 a month at that point. But of course, you should be working outside of that to develop your relationship with the potential lead and doing all the background work to figure out logistics and procurement and all of that sort of thing. So I would say at that point, then it's maybe 2 or 3 hours a week. Sometimes less, sometimes more, depending on how much energy you need to put into the project. So our accelerator is not really focused on teaching you how to be a startup, right, or how to do that sort of business development. We're here to support you along the way, obviously, but we don't have sort of a structured curriculum or anything like that. A lot of it is just helping you find these potential partners and develop those relationships and get your project off the ground. So a lot of this work is really how much time you're willing to put into it.
Thank you, Susanna. Our next question. We've got early pilots in the lower 48, but nothing in Alaska yet. How important is having some sort of Alaskan presence or traction prior to applying?
I mean, it's helpful, of course. I'm not gonna deny that. But most of the companies that come through our program don't have any Alaska presence or attraction. That's the whole point, is like you're trying to get into Alaska. And so having a pilot or some sort of demonstration in another part of the world is always great. Because then you can come to the tech deployment track and meet with advisors and talk about that pilot. And that's really exciting for them. Or even if you don't have a pilot, but you're ready to deploy, just showing like how your technology has worked in another area is just really, really valuable. But we're not expecting you to be here in Alaska. The whole point is to get you in Alaska, right? And so, I would not worry about that at all. Like I said earlier, though, we do ask you to come for session 1. We hope you continue coming back. We do find that companies that come back to Alaska after session 1 tend to find a little more success. But having an established presence, not at all an issue coming into session 1.
Thanks, Susanna. Our next question, what's the makeup of your advisory panel? Are they primarily from industry, government, or local communities?
It's really a mix. They are from all of those. Like I said, we go out and Alaska's like one big small town, right? We all kind of know everybody. And we spend a lot of time curating a really great group of folks who are really tied into project development in Alaska. That said, we go out and we try to find the best people for session 1 to come and hear your pitches. It is invite only. So we're not just asking anyone to come in, right? We're asking folks who could, potentially work with you. We're serious players, right? And so, these folks run the gamut. Again, a lot of folks in private industry, lots of folks from local government, folks that work in nonprofit sectors, the university system, all of that. yeah, we're bringing all of those folks in. And again, we really do try to curate them depending on who it is, right? So if you're a company that's looking to work in the oil and gas sector, for example, we've got a bunch of people that we already work with in that sector. We make sure to bring those folks in, but we try to find even more specific folks, right? Like depending on what the tech was, to bring them in and to make sure that they were there to hear your pitch. So. Yeah, I hope that helps. There's not a real clear, I don't have numbers off the top of my head of sort of what the breakdown is of all of those. But it's a real mix.
Great, thank you. Our next question, you mentioned companies remain in the track as they make progress. Could you clarify that? Is there a chance we could be asked to leave the program?
Yeah, so we do have evaluation points at a couple stages throughout the program. And so, yeah, for us, progress looks like you have in the early stages, it's the getting the advisor endorsement, right? So, for example, in session one, getting at least one mentor to sign up to work with you would be an example of that advisor endorsement moving forward. And then after that, it looks like, again, you've gone out, you're talking to folks. If it seems like there is legitimate interest in your technology, we're going to continue working with you. As long as it looks like, again, there's one or two projects that are coming together, we're going to continue working with you. And so, yeah, advisors early on are assessing that and saying, yes, these guys have a legitimate chance of working here in Alaska. And then later on, it's the Launch Alaska team that assesses the work that you've done through the report outs that you're bringing back to us on the connections that you're making and the progress, how are things going in terms of, getting some sort of purchase agreement or something like that. Again, we know that these have really long timelines and we don't expect you to actually execute on them within the 8 months of the program, right? But we want to see that you're making progress, right? That you are identifying, who are the right people to talk to? What are the priorities of the organization, right? How are you strategizing, how to meet those priorities? Just as long as it looks like things are actually moving forward towards some sort of deployment in Alaska, we see that as success. And so we'll continue working with you as long as we see that progress being made.
Great, we have some more questions now. Let's start with, what's the biggest mistake you see applicants make when applying to the tech deployment track? Anything we should definitely avoid?
Oh, what's the biggest mistake? Well, I would say, I mentioned earlier, spelling or, grammar. I mean, that just like it makes your application look unprofessional. And so, that can be a tough one for us. I've seen really messy applications come in where it looks like someone's just done it very quickly and take a little time to work on it and make it look professional, right? Consider it like a job application. Make it look, professional at the end of the day. Oftentimes a big mistake I see too is that folks really do lean on the jargon. You have to remember that we have a lot of folks that come and participate in the program who are not technical experts. But they still, again, they work for local government or something, like they still want to find new technologies to work in their communities. And so I would, strongly encourage you to kind of, I hate to say sort of dumb it down, but just make it really accessible, right? When you're explaining how your technology works, make it accessible for a generalist to understand. And so, yeah, if we can't understand what your tech does because it's so technical, it's not going to be helpful for us moving forward with your application. So yeah, please take some time to help us understand your technology in a very basic way. And of course, also, let us know like where you think the tech is going to fit in Alaska. I know that you're not technical experts on Alaska, but I want you to at least have an idea of like, this needs to operate in a coastal environment, or like we think that this would work really well with like small scale utilities in rural parts of the community with high energy prices, or that kind of thing. I think even some of those high level um, that customer identification is really helpful for us moving forward to understand where we can best help you.
Thanks, Susanna. I think we might have time for one more question before the end of today's session. Is this program best suited for hardware companies, or are software and data heavy startups equally encouraged to apply?
Yeah, I mean, so we will take all of the above. I will say I do think this program is really well suited for hardware companies, because a lot of the advisors that we're working with are really interested in hardware, right? Hardware solutions. I think that's very exciting for a lot of the folks that work here. But that said, we still will work. We work with tons of software companies and these, these data companies, that are utilizing AI or things like that in order to refine systems and make life easier for folks here in Alaska, regardless of what sector they work in. Um, so yeah, we can take all of them. I will say, as we look at software and data startups, we do expect deployment on a more rapid timeline, because we know that some of the logistics that a hardware company is going to have in terms of manufacturing and shipping and all of that are not going to apply. And so, yeah, so there, it could be a little bit more competitive for a software or a data company. But that said, definitely very interested in working with them, definitely see lots of opportunities there. And so, yeah, happy to have all of you join us.
Excellent. Thank you, Susanna. That actually brings us to the end of our questions today.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Kirsten, and thanks to everybody for all of those amazing questions. Those are really good. I hope that you've learned a lot today about our program. I hope that you consider applying. It's a really wonderful program, and again, we've had a ton of success, and I hope that you consider. We'd love to have anybody with an innovative solution that you think is going to be successful here in Alaska. If you have any questions, please reach out to me at any time. But otherwise, I look forward to seeing your application. And just a reminder, they are due May 1st, so just around the corner. And so, yeah, get them in early, so we can have you join us here in Alaska. So with that, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to hearing from you all soon.